It's like a female Michael Jackson.
You mean Janet Jackson? Welcome to another episode of Let's Rewatch, the show where we like to watch movies that we loved in our youth and see if they're actually still any good. As always, I'm Nick.
I'm Bret.
I'm Sam.
I'm Ash.
Am I in this?
And that's Bryce.
And today we're joined by a guest. I want to make sure I pronounce this right. It's Tybee Diskin?
That's the one.
I tried to do that with an Interrobang at the end.
It worked.
Yeah? Is that
like
how you
an
pronounce it
Interrobang.
with an Interrobang?
Yeah.
So
Good.
I just
Tybee-
thought you were having a stroke.
Yeah. So Tybee, of course, is the co-host of the podcast Interrobang with Travis McElroy.
Yes, sir.
And so this is a show where the two of you basically discuss things that you find frustrating in everyday life.
Yeah.
Am I summarizing that accurately?
Yeah, we discuss things we find frustrating, and then we have like sensitive heart-to-hearts about them after we yell a lot.
Like Barb.
Barb. Don't talk to me about Barb.
we're getting sad already. I think this...
Dude,
there are going to be high emotions in this episode.
every time somebody I know finds something about people not liking Barb, they send it to me now. And I'm like, no, now I'm the like leader of the fuck Barb pack. And I hate that.
Wait, your position is that you hate Barb?
I don't hate Barb. I nothing Barb. And we were talking about how everyone was so up in arms about like Barb being like the MVP and we're all Barb and je suis Barb. And I was like, I'm not fucking Barb. I'm not Barb.
I want to change my Facebook picture. Just like superimpose Barb on top of my face, but like semi-transparent so you can still see me. So Interrobang must be a really sort of cathartic experience that I feel like we all have these things that make us angry day after day, week after week. What's it like to just like get that off of your chest on a weekly basis? Does that help you be a better person?
Does that feel
for
good?
sure. Yeah, I think it helps me. It's already helped me feel more confident in my communication skills because now it's like, well, now you host a show about it. You better be fucking good at it. And so I think it's definitely helped me feel calmer and more confident so that I can give myself the time to collect my thoughts in everyday life. And I think it has affected my other interactions is what I mean. Like it affects me out in the world to have had that and done it and talked through stuff. I think it has had definitely a positive impact on probably all of my interactions.
Almost like therapy. Like I'm convinced this show only exists because these people are sick of hearing me talk about obscure movie facts. So they're like, let's let him get it out of his system on a bi-weekly basis.
No.
And
the podcast exists so that you won't leave us.
okay.
I thought the podcast existed because I needed education in films that I hadn't seen.
Actually, Bret would say
for
that's
all of
true.
these
I'm
reasons.
just here to tell Nick he's wrong.
Fair enough.
No, you believe everybody is wrong. So don't pin this on
That's
Nick.
your life motto, isn't it, Bret?
It
What
is. Everything everyone's doing is wrong.
And you're the one who can fix it.
No, I'm wrong too. Everyone's wrong.
So I was just...
I actually really like that. We're all fucking it up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're all some form of idiot. So I was just listening to your most recent episode, and you were talking about something that really always bugged the hell out of me. When you go to the airport and you're in the line for security, and the people in line for security are oblivious to the fact that they need to take their shit out and take their shoes off and go through security.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy.
It's like you've never been in the airport before? You haven't been in the airport since 2001?
Are they foreign though? Because
No, I'm talking about
it's everybody.
normal, like middle class white families who have no fucking excuse that they like for not knowing that they needed to take off their shoes, that they need to take off their jacket, take off your shirt,
Sir, take off your shirt.
sir,
Lady, ma'am,
Sir.
ma'am.
take off your shirt.
Unbutton.
But they need to like get their laptops out, get everything out of your pockets. Like,
Drives me
why aren't
crazy.
you already doing this stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your liquids out. Like, why don't you have... I saw a woman in the airport. She had an entire jar of Skippy.
Well,
and it
that
wasn't
could
a little
be Bryce
jar.
on any given day.
It was like a Costco jar, like the big ones. And they were like, ma'am, you can't have this. And she was like, well,
Is that
I
a
need
liquid?
it. I once got stopped for baby powder, and they were like, "We need to test this." And I was like, "Oh, you could just have it. Like, I don't need it.
Did they
I'll
dip
just
their
get a new
finger in
one."
and rub it on their gums?
No. They're like, "We have to test," and I was like, "But I don't really need it. Can I just go? Like, can you guys just confiscate it and I'll leave?" And they were like, "Well, but don't you want it? And I was like, no, I can just get more.
baby
It's just
powder.
not
Literally
worth
anywhere
this
at all.
situation.
I just don't care about it. I mean, yeah, it's $3. I'll just get more. And they were like, it's only going to take a minute. And I was like, seriously, for real, I don't care.
This interaction is over.
I need this to be done. I just don't care.
So if you get really frustrated with stuff, then
Like
you might
that.
want to check out Interrobang. I think everybody gets frustrated with stuff. And yeah, it's kind of nice to hear when other people get frustrated about the stuff that you get frustrated with.
But aren't just there to hate on shit.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing is that Travis and I don't like being mad about things, but it's necessary or we like feel it anyway. So we just like have to work through it. We don't like being frustrated. Some people really like to bitch about things and we're not those people. We just want to get through it so that we can like get back to being.
Well, you want to understand it.
It's a
That's
support
what's-
group.
It
Yeah,
really
like,
is.
You like understand, like, let me understand why I'm upset about this thing, you know?
Yeah, precisely.
So let's find out if we're going to be happy, upset, or possibly sad about
Very sad, I
this
think.
movie. This time we're watching The NeverEnding Story from 1984. And I think the background on this movie, I've been trying to stop saying, this is interesting. And I was just about to say, this is interesting again. It's such a crutch.
Is it? Is it interesting?
Yes, it's interesting that
I'll
I have
be the
this crutch
judge of
that I
that.
say this is interesting. So this movie is based on a very, very famous book in Germany. It translates to The NeverEnding Story. I'm going to give it a try. The book is called Die Unendliche Geschichte.
Can I see it?
Yeah, second line there. Do you speak German?
Die unendliche, maybe?
That's way different from what you said, Nick.
Yeah.
Geschichte?
Geschichte, unendliche Geschichte.
If you're a German listener,
I don't know.
please tell us.
What
Tried
did
to
Nick
get-
say?
tried to get that.
So I contacted some German friends to confirm, and this is a very, very popular book, very famous book in Germany. It was published in 1979, and actually September 1st, 1979. So we're celebrating the 37th anniversary.
And I believe the 25th of the movie, right?
What?
Or is
There,
it just...
there is some I think they re-released the movie in theaters because of the anniversary of the book.
Oh, okay.
And there was a Google Doodle on September 1st.
Yes,
Celebrating
yeah.
NeverEnding Story.
I love my German people stereotype reason for why it's really popular. It's
Okay.
like, so what's this movie about? It is about nothing.
Isn't it Z Nutting?
See, nothing
See,
comes
nothing.
for you.
No.
So very,
go.
very famous children's book from Germany, kind of on par with something like The Wizard of Oz. When they made this movie, they got who was arguably the most famous German director, who might still be the most famous German director, Wolfgang Petersen, who had just done Das Boot, a very famous German film about like the stark realities of living and working on a submarine during World War II.
This is quite a different...
Wait.
I think he's a sort of guy that they saw who could really capture the German experience, because it's a German production, but it's kind of not recast. It's like reset in America, you know? It's got English-speaking characters. I think the town is in America, but I think they probably wanted somebody who
it's
could
in
maintain.
Germany. They just, they had American...
Well, that's interesting. Like, I want to really think about this in the movie. Is there anything that identifies it as any particular area? Or could
Oh no,
it be,
you seen that childlike empress? She real
I
Aryan.
think she's pretty, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't know. So I think it's,
It's very beautiful.
Is the kid.
No, they're in America. I'm just being a dick.
but, what I think's interesting about the kid is Bastian is a popular German name. And that always bugged the shit out of me as a kid. Like, did they just say Sebastian? Like,
Just Bastion.
just Bastian. Like, that's a weird name until you realize that that's a German name, and that's from the book, and they wanted to keep all the character names the same. So that makes me feel a lot better, because that always seemed like such a weird name to me, Bastian.
Okay, German hater.
Oh, no.
Fine
no,
with
I'm saying-
Atreyu. Confused about Bastion.
Yeah.
Well, Atreyuuuu, and I did confirm this with a German friend, that's just a fantasy
Right,
name.
yeah, no.
And that always played just fine.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a big old crush on Atreyu.
On
as a kid.
Atreyuuuu?
Big old crush.
That's
Big ol'
interesting
crush.
because I was never quite sure Well, eventually I figured it out, but there was a period of time where I couldn't tell if Atreyuuuu was male or female.
Hello, did you forget who you're talking to?
Just an observation.
Does
Yes.
not matter.
It's interesting.
Time will take either. Either is fine.
So, of course, Wolfgang Petersen did a lot of movies that we recognized after this, including Enemy Mine, which I've been bugging you guys to do on this show for a while. But he did Outbreak, Air Force One, Perfect Storm, a bunch of big movies like that.
Where was the sense in being like, this guy can direct a child's film?
Well, I think
Shark Boy and Lava Girl by what's his face?
Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, where are
We
we
all
going
know
with
that
this?
was a
Where are we
mistake,
going
But
with
he
this?
did that.
Yeah, like that's
That
clearly
was his like first big thing though, wasn't it?
What?
Wait, really? No, I
Wasn't
thought
that-
he like.
no,
Shark Boy and Lava Girl?
Yeah, wasn't that his
Mariachi.
biggest?
No,
No,
that was
yeah,
like
yeah,
his
yeah, yeah.
biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Dust Till
maybe.
No, I
Dawn
know,
was
but I was
probably-
thinking
Yeah, Dust Till Dawn. And then
El
he
Mariachi.
directed from
yeah,
Dusk Till Dawn.
Mariachi.
Yeah, Robert Rodriguez is fascinating. He does these
I guess I
weird
did
kids
know that.
movies, and he does these weird, like,
Yeah,
the stuff with Tarantino that's very adult.
God, from Dusk
He's a
Till
weird
Dawn
cat.
is such a weird movie.
Yeah.
With
It's-
Salma Hayek though.
we gotta watch that one. That one's
Yes,
on my list for this.
Can I come back for that one?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm coming back for that
Of
one.
course.
But I think it's more about the German thing, because this was his first English language movie. So he was like the guy to maintain the Germanness of it, I think.
Interesting. Okay.
But that's just
I
a
like that.
theory.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Like there was a team of writers who were like, "So Bastian, we can't have a character named Bastian, right?" He's like, "No, it must stay."
Yeah, I mean, everybody in our country loves this book. You can't change the character's name. Like, you know.
He's like, we wake up, we are 6 years old, we smoke a cigarette, we read the NeverEnding Story
We cry.
forever. I smoke. The horse dies. I smoke a cigarette.
Spoiler alert.
I drink two bottles of wine.
See, nothing comes for us all.
So nothing comes for us all.
Nothing.
Truly a nihilist piece.
And so another kind of behind the scenes player here that I didn't really recognize clearly when I saw this in my youth, but some of the music in this movie, including the title song, was written and recorded by Giorgio Moroder, an Italian. Do you recognize Giorgio, Bryce? He's worked with Daft Punk. He was sort
Bryce,
of
we can't hear you shake your head.
Oh,
my
in
friend.
the new album, right?
Yeah, he does have a
Yes.
song. He worked with Daft Punk on the new album.
I'm answering for Bryce. Yes. He's shaking his
He's a
head.
pioneer of EDM and electronic music. He's from northern Italy. He's actually from the region our friend Roberto is from. That whole
Whoa,
German.
Bolzano?
I don't know if he's from that town, but from
That's
that
a joke
area.
name. It's a joke name
real
for a town.
city.
I believe you.
Yeah.
But it is
They're
also
Bolzano over there. That was bad.
Yep.
Please cut that.
Yep.
So I think we'll enjoy
cut that.
Please.
It's gonna be the
Please cut
opening of
that.
the episode. You are welcome.
all
Damn
on
it.
tape.
When do we see the dragon dog?
Dragon Dog Z. So I'm excited for the music because I think now that we know this is like one of the early pioneers of electronic music and synthesizer music, like there could be some really cool stuff here.
Interesting, yeah.
And we all know what happens when Nick is excited about the music.
That music will not appear in the movie at all.
Yeah,
He's always
Nick's
wrong
never
about
been
music.
right about his music guesses ever.
I see.
Yeah.
We'll
I
see.
remember the theme to this being pretty like epic.
I dig it.
Homestar sings a version of it about Mountain Dew.
That just sounds like an upgrade, though.
It keeps pouring out, and he just goes, "Never ending soda." It's really fun.
I miss Homestar.
Homestar Runner, you guys, 2001.
Throwback.
Okay.
Way back.
Turn up.
So I'd like to think that, about a year ago we watched Legend, hoping that would be
Yes.
the great fantasy film of our youth.
I liked Legend more.
And Sam is the one
What?
who liked Legend.
Whoa.
I-
More than this movie? Oh, when you were a kid.
No,
No.
adult.
Adult you likes Legend more than this movie.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this is going to be the antidote to the Legend experience. So let's go straight to Sam's expectations.
Sorry.
You've seen this movie.
Yeah, kind of recently.
Interesting.
Really?
Not
Cheating
this
on us.
past. It was before
It was
the
either
podcast
last year
Oh, okay.
or the year before. It was before.
It was
we
in
did-
Hawaii.
before we started this.
When we got engaged.
We got free DVD
Falcorrrrr.
rentals, and so we watched Jurassic Park and then
Good choice,
NeverEnding
good
Story.
choice.
Yeah, totally.
Solid.
And
One of those is very appropriate for Hawaii. The other is not.
One of those could make Hawaii frightening.
yeah, it's the NeverEnding Story.
Wow.
I mean, I don't.
Cheeks.
I didn't see it as a kid. I only saw it
That's
as an
why.
adult.
Oh.
Yeah. And it was
interesting.
just, I guess it was like the Ewoks, you know? Like, I didn't see him as a kid. I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't-
Are you telling me you don't like Ewoks? What is going
No,
on?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying like
Oh.
if you didn't see Ewoks as kids, you hate them.
People
And I
hate
feel
the
like that's
Ewoks?
never any story.
That's an interesting off ramp. I love Ewoks, but I think a lot of people hate Ewoks.
Really?
That's not a weird opinion.
I've never
I'm
heard
neutral
that
on
before.
Ewoks, you guys, in case anyone was wondering.
Yes. Okay,
Super
Poland.
nooch.
I dislike them, and I saw them as a kid.
Yeah. Well, now we're educated adults. I don't know.
So you don't think this is going to be good?
I think if
She knows it's not good.
I
She just
know I
watched it.
personally don't like it. I think if you liked it as a kid, you will still enjoy it, but it's very cheese.
Interesting.
Very, very cheese. Like, I don't know, there was like a charming badness about Legend that I still kind of like, even though we didn't like the movie. And I just remember being really bored with NeverEnding Story.
I think you and me are going to fight. Because I feel like I remember really enjoying this movie.
Okay.
I remember loving this movie in my youth.
Okay.
How old are you, Nick?
I'm 38.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen it within the past 10 years.
Okay.
I own a DVD or a Blu-ray, so I've seen it within that window
Covered
of time.
in dust.
He
As,
owns
as all
the-
optical discs are.
You have the collector's edition soundtrack,
Yeah, having a movie collection on disc is dumb.
the Daft Punk remix album.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think everybody's going to enjoy it, and I think you and I will be enemies.
Well,
until
I mean,
the end of time.
I'm certainly hoping I've changed my opinion because if I hate it as much as I hated it the first time, I'm in for a rough 2 hours.
All right, we
You
got us a
know-
ball game.
It's really interesting you say that because I have a memory of not hating this film, but not thinking it was like as great as everyone cracked it up to
You
be.
pushed for this movie.
Because it's relevant.
I think it's extremely appropriate for the science experiment that is this podcast.
Totally.
But like I don't remember like hating it. I just remember that it like wasn't like my favorite thing ever, you know, and like a lot of people really like feel passionately about this film, and I just remember being like, yeah, it's all right. But I don't remember a lot about the movie, which is a sign that like I probably didn't like it that much.
I think I
don't know.
remember more about the Workaholics episode where they dress their car up as Falcorrrrr
Oh, man.
than I do about the movie, and I've
sounds
seen it
amazing.
in the last 2 years. So, yeah.
But I am curious to see. I'm curious to see how the special effects hold up because that's always a huge question mark.
it's
I'm
gonna be
going to go
great.
with they won't.
They won't, yeah.
They will not.
And
I'm
like,
going to go out on a limb and say they will. They will
Well-
feel dated, but in the way that a lot of Henson productions feel
Right,
dated.
that's exactly what
And
I
they'll
was gonna say.
still
Henson
have
Productions.
that beautiful whimsy to
That
them,
charm.
I think.
okay, I'm on board with
I
that. I don't remember a lot about the story, except I remember the beginning and the weird dog dragon, and I remember the
He's
end.
a luck dragon.
Luck dragon, okay. And
He's a dragon dog, okay?
dragon dog.
Dragon Dog Z.
Dragon dog, see?
So I really don't know.
Lucky
I don't
number
know
dragon.
how I'm going to feel about this movie because I feel like it could go either way for me. It could. I'm curious to see what happens. It's funny because I have memories of the second movie. And I remember watching the
Yeah.
second
Wait,
movie.
there's
Ew.
a second one?
Oh, there's
What?
three.
Yeah. There's multiple.
Yeah, and so this movie only really covers basically the first half of the book, and the author of the book, Michael
They
Ende,
fucking
was
Peter Jacksoned it?
Oh, yeah.
The
not-
Hobbit?
I don't know if that was the original plan, but the author of the book was very upset and actually filed
Back
a
in the
lawsuit.
70s. We are going to Peter Jackson this movie.
They looked into the future.
Yeah.
They knew.
Yeah, and the
looked into the
second movie
nothing.
had like a completely different kid. It had Jonathan Brandis,
Yeah.
the kid from
I love
Sequest.
Jonathan Brandis. I was so sad when he died.
Spoiler alert.
Do you even?
Wait, I don't
She's
know.
talking about the actor, not the
I
character.
know, it was a really bad joke.
You can have
Spoiler
spoilers
alert.
for life.
Spoiler alert, he's dead.
Nobody tell her
So
about
sorry.
David Bowie.
Oh no.
So what do you think, Bret? Have you seen it?
This movie, for me, falls into the category that Legend and The Dark Crystal and like
Yes,
other
that's a good
movies
one.
of
Yeah.
the type where it was for some reason a very dark, color paletted kids movie.
Muddy.
And the lasting effects that I remember were all negative for me as a child, but not
Really?
in like a scary way, just kind of like in a maybe like kid depression kind of way. Like, oh, all of these movies kind of made me sad.
Yes.
I guess it is kind of. There's some dark stuff.
I can understand that. I definitely feel like it sort of affected my like flair for the dramatic because the movie is so dramatic. I remember being like, I want to live like an epic journey and be like beautiful and yell at a little boy who's like reading my story. Like, how do I do that? I want to be that. And that's not a thing, you guys. It's
And
not.
thus,
Learn
Terrabang
that.
was born.
And thus have a podcast about being sensitive and yelling a lot.
You found your dog dragon, Travis McElroy.
Travis is for sure my dog
He
dragon.
kind of looks like Falcorrrrr.
Oh my god, we have to get fan art done where I'm Atreyuuuu and
Riding on
Travis.
Travis's back.
Or wait, does Atreyuuuu ride him or does Bastion ride him?
Bastion
But,
rides him.
well, both, I think.
Do they both ride him?
I think
Yeah, I can't
that's
remember.
they're both in the movie. I think.
They're both. We'll find out. We'll decide which one I'm more like at the end. That's really why we're watching this. Which NeverEnding Story character is Tybee?
We need to do like an online survey poll.
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
you a Bastion or an Atreyuuuu?
Like the Survey
Yeah,
Monkey.
speaking of which, I did the one for Stranger Things and I got Mike, okay? So
As long as you didn't get
I did not get Barb.
I'm
I'm clearly not
You
a
were the
Barb.
Barb.
You know what made me mad about the whole Barb thing was after I said it, after I did it, people were like, you just don't understand because you've never been like the fat friend. And I was like,
What?
what? That's not, what do you mean? First of all, are you trying to suggest that I don't know what it's like to be an outcast? Because I definitely was not treated well as a kid. Like, I got left out of literally everything. So just because I didn't grow up like a heavy girl does not mean I don't understand not being fucking cool.
Okay,
And,
I
like,
grew
how does
up.
that even affect you,
Yeah,
whether or
like-
not you like a character?
I grew up as
They're like,
the
you don't identify with her because you've never been that. And I was like, you don't know me. You don't know me. You don't know
like-
my life. That's what I said.
I grew up as the
know.
fat girl, and like I didn't identify with Barb.
Thank you.
like what? That's
See?
irrelevant.
Like I agree with you. Like that's a terrible criticism to leverage at you. But I was struck hard by that whole sequence, the party scene, just like the realism and the pain that these, like suddenly I'm like, I'm not even watching this science fiction, genre thing. I'm watching this real character drama about real stuff that kids go through with flavors of stuff that I went through as a kid. I thought that was really powerful.
I did not feel that way about that party. Like
Wow.
when I watched it, I was like, Barb, you're being a cockblock. Just go home.
That scene hit me
Totes.
so hard.
Nancy, you're not communicating effectively.
Well, like I guess I can
Because she's
see how
like
you
16 years old.
I know.
I can see how you can relate to her in that way, but like my confusion about Barb was the fact that like, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. Like if that's your cup of tea, whatever. But my confusion was a lot of people were saying that she was a lesbian and that she was into Nancy. And
I
like,
actually said
no.
that would have made sense to me.
It would
on the
have.
podcast. I was like, if Barb is in love with Nancy, that explains her behavior,
Yep.
and I would be like, yes,
Totally.
that is sad.
I think it's irrelevant.
That's
but there's
tragic.
nothing
Yeah,
that
set
sounds
up
very,
that
like-
way. Yeah.
I think that's
That's not
completely
what
irrelevant.
happened.
Yeah.
Fanfic stuff right there.
I was like, if
Totally.
it were the case, I'd have been like, okay, now I'm a little more on board. But because it's not, I'm like, isn't she just your friend? Like, don't you want her to like have a good time?
Well, she
Didn't
was
you
just,
go there to
she
be
was
her
trying to
wingman?
save her from the heartache. Like she said from the beginning that he was
I think
only
she was
there
trying to
get
save
in
her from
pants.
the cock cake.
But so is
like-
she. Like, she wanted the D real bad. And that's okay.
See, yes,
As kids, you have this image of what your friends are, and I think she was having this moment
Yes.
where this impression of what she thought her friend was about was being shattered, and it hurt her as well. And maybe she was being prudish, and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. But that like impact of like, wow, these other people around me are not the people who I projected on them.
Or it's like the
Sure.
stand by
yeah,
me
but
thing.
it was a little bit of like, read the room, Barb.
Yeah, like there are 4 people there. 2 of them are boys and 2 of them are girls, and then there's you. And like I understand feeling left out of that, and it wasn't that I didn't get that. It was that like once that's over, leave. Like my thing was like, just leave. And the whole thing is, it doesn't matter because I wasn't watching it thinking like, why is she still there? I was just like, okay, this is fine, I guess. Like it didn't matter to me. So every time I like drop an argument and I'm like, well, but what about this? People were like, but it's not, you can't put your sensibilities onto those kids. And I'm like, right, but I'm the audience. We're the audience. Like, here I am watching the show, and I didn't feel the way you felt. Like, I'm sorry I didn't feel the way you felt about Barb. I'm not in love with Barb. I don't think she's the MVP. No, je suis Barb. I'm not Barb. I'm just not. If that makes me the Demogorgon, so be it.
So we're changing course here. We're not watching NeverEnding Story. We're watching Stranger Things Season 1, Episode 3 right now. We're going to hash this out.
Please.
Yeah, so anyway,
So Bret.
I'm not expecting fantastic things from this movie just because I don't have fantastic memories of this movie. However, I've discovered a new joy in this movie, which is
you have to tell us after.
This is after, but it's relaying my very serious plot theory to everyone. And
I haven't heard this yet, but I hear you have the answer to the NeverEnding Story.
The absolute joy that comes from
ruining other people's
absolutely devastating everyone's opinion of this movie. So
and she looks forward to doing that to us later.
We'll do that after the break.
All right. I forgot to mention, we've talked before about how sometimes I'll quote movies and people don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Yes. I'm the guy who always says, they look like big, strong hands, don't they?
Whoa.
And nobody ever knows what I'm talking about.
No.
That is a deep pull, my friend.
That is such
I
a
just
fucking
love that
deep
line,
pull.
that despair. They look like big, strong hands, don't they? So you'll see that in this movie.
I feel like there are so many quotes you could pick.
Yep, that's the one.
Why?
That's the one I'm going with.
Okay.
Do you hear yourself when you say it?
Huh?
Okay.
What? So what do you think, Tybee? Clearly you've seen this. You have some expectations.
Yes. I, as a child, remember like fast forwarding through the Artax part. And because it's just I can't watch animals get hurt. And I know, and now even more so knowing that the actual horse on set got hurt.
I did not know that.
No, don't tell me that.
Yeah. Because they're actually sinking it. So like it was freaking out like a horse would if you tried to drown it and it hurt itself like on the rig.
Wolfgang,
So
we
like-
are going to have to sink the horse.
Don't make a joke about the horse.
Well, that horse is dead now, girl. Don't worry about it. It might
We
not
have terrible
be.
news, Wolfgang.
How long do horses live, Sam?
I don't know, like 20-something years.
Yeah, it's probably dead. So I really liked this movie as a kid. It was sort of, I have the same feeling about it being sort of in the vein of like Labyrinth and all of those weird, dark, creepy, kind of sexual, strange things. I just feel like, like Jareth has like a huge bulge and that's weird in a kid's movie.
Sure.
And like
Totally.
NeverEnding Story, he's like, Lil Atreyuuu's wearing like, he's kind of dressed like Aladdin.
And
Like, it's kind of,
Falcorrrr's
like,
huge
sexy.
bulge.
No.
Wow.
No. But
Is
I
that
do
his
think that there
Dragon
was
Ball?
like,
Proportionate, Nick.
Okay.
no, I think there's room for sort of like, because they're tweens, it sort of involves like, if you're that age, you're like, oh, do I like this?
Is this a
in
kissing
way?
movie?
Kissing movie. This is a kissing story. Have you ever seen the mashup for It's Princess Bride and the Red Wedding?
Oh, no.
Oh my God. It's like the scenes with Fred Savage. And they like, he's like, he says something and the grandpa's like, do you want me to just read the story? Can I read the story? And he finishes it and they end all the deaths. And Fred Savage it cuts to the part where he's like, Jesus, Grandpa, why'd you read me this book? Oh God, it's
That's
so good.
amazing.
I'm excited for this movie because I liked it as a kid and I feel like it's going to hit exactly all the marks I think it will. I don't feel like I'm over expecting. I think I saw it probably like 10 years ago and I was like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
So what do you think, Bryce?
So I've got some bad news for you guys.
You don't love NeverEnding Story?
Well, we already watched this movie on the podcast.
What?
Yeah, Bill Murray, he's like a weatherman, and he goes to a town and gets stuck by a blizzard, and then he's forced to repeat the same day over and over and over, and it literally never ends. So I kind of
That
feel like I
sounds
know
familiar.
exactly, I know exactly what to expect from this movie.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to rewatch The NeverEnding Story.
I really want to find analog characters for Groundhog Day and NeverEnding Story now. Like, is Falcorrrrr Bill Murray?
Well, Chris Elliott is definitely Artax.
Chris Elliott's Artax for sure.
Yeah.
I guess Andy McDowell is the childlike empress.
Or is it the homeless guy who he can't save is the childlike empress?
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh, wait,
no, that's the horse.
Is Nancy?
No, yeah, the
is
homeless
Nancy,
guy is
what's her
Artax.
face, the childlike empress? That he like learns where she went to school and pretends that they went to school together.
Let's find out. Cool. So, NeverEnding Story is not available on Netflix. It's on your iTunes and Google Play rental services and on Amazon. So we're going to rewatch it, and hopefully you can pause the podcast and rewatch it as well.
Also, if you're listening to this in the month of September, it is having a theatrical re-release.
Yeah,
it
go
might
watch it
be
there.
one day only on September 2nd. I'm not sure.
Oh, well, shit.
Check your local list.
Get your time machine. Go back in time.
it's one of
If
those-
you're listening to this last week,
I think it's one of those
You said
Fathom
get in your
events
time machine
things.
like they would go back a day instead of just going back to 1984
Well,
to see it in
priorities.
its
You've
original
gotta-
theatrical release.
Oh, that's true. You could do that.
I want to watch it in a cushy ass now theater, not
Yeah.
none of
Good
those
sound.
no stadium seating terrible theaters.
So join us when you finish watching The NeverEnding Story. So immediately I think we need to address there's kind of two elephants in the room here, and I'm going to let the whole Princess Bride thing go. But this movie stole a lot from Mr. Robot. In which
Excuse me?
the audience plays a role in the story as observers of what's happening.
Spoilers. I haven't seen
well, that
Mr.
just
Robot.
sounds like Mr. Robot stole a lot
That's
from
part of
Rubber.
the very first episode.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not,
not
that's
really-
a spoiler.
Standard Mr.
Okay.
Robot stuff. Like
He talks to you in the first episode.
the narration is him talking to me as I'm watching the show.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. We get addressed.
That's true.
Sort of, yeah.
So Mr.
And House
Robot
of Cards and
And there's
steals
plenty of soliloquy
from...
is not new, but it wasn't soliloquy. They don't really talk to us. What's weird is when they look at each other and they're just looking forward.
they're looking at
Can
us
they
because
see
we're
each other?
also part of the
but
story.
they're not looking at it because she's talking to Bastion at
but
the
they're
end.
also talking to us in a way.
Yeah, but also I don't understand the
Also
physics
not.
of this world.
Well, he looks up, and isn't there a point where, like, Atreyuuuu kind of looks at him, too? When he's,
When
like,
they're in
looking through the mirror
he
thing?
sees
Yeah.
Bastion.
Yeah.
Well, if the physics of this world are that the nothing is what happens when people in the 80s forget about their hopes and dreams, then I feel like then Fantasia must be flourishing and beautiful right now with all these hipsters pointlessly chasing their dreams right now.
I don't know. I feel like we'd have to figure out whatever 90s Fantasia is because that's what's flourishing right now.
That would have been amazing.
80s Fantasia is gone. 90s Fantasia is up and running.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Specifically in Portland.
everybody gave up on their dreams in the 80s, but now and in the 90s, people are kind of chasing after their shit. But yeah, there were a lot of parallels from Princess Bride. Like there's the whole bookends with the whole reading of a book thing.
There's also parallels from. I feel like all
Miracle
movies
Max.
that involved fantasy had like
Yeah.
very specific puppet tropes.
We've talked before, too, how, like, Princess Bride is specifically, like, making fun of fantasy tropes, I think.
Maybe it was
So-
making fun of this sort of thing.
Yeah.
But even that set where after, like when he's talking to the rock biter after the nothing hit and there's like, it's just this rocky landscape, looks exactly like where Inigo Montoya and Carrie Elways have the sword fight.
I don't know. I didn't get
same
that.
Set.
And we were talking about the
Because
like
there
the,
were rocks. It looked the same because there were rocks.
Well, it looked like this. It just looked very similar.
It did, like the cheesy, shitty foam rocks, and like
the paint drop.
like a walkway that's only there for this scene,
And they're like on a cliff, so there's nothing in the background except
Yeah.
the sky.
and the river scene that looked like the scene from Legend with the unicorn, but it was
Oh,
like
that's
with
true.
with their horse.
I have a problem. Did dads just drink orange juice and raw egg smoothies?
Yeah,
in
that
the
was
80s?
weird.
Yeah.
You know-
Super weird.
You guys were reacting to that the whole time. I'm thinking that might be a good idea.
It's a
'Cause-
great idea in theory, but it just nobody does it. Was that a thing that people
it's
did in the 80s?
freaking weird. Yeah, I've never seen it. But I feel like the orange juice would cut the flavor of the egg, and it's a quick way to get some protein.
It's
And
like
some salmonella.
You know, did you know that salmonella actually lives on the outside of the shell? So
it's
if you
not.
wash
Yeah.
It's not the raw egg part.
Well, it's also a lot of
It's-
the U.S. eggs are
yeah.
pasteurized.
Yeah, that
Yeah, and it's because they pre-wash them, so it gets a coating off of the outside that prevents bacteria from getting in.
Thanks, Nick.
Wow.
Why is Noah Hathaway talking like that the entire movie? Okay, first of all, almost all of the lines are ADR'd. That is
Yeah.
annoying
Yeah.
to me.
Yes.
And why is Atreyuuuu? Why does he have that weird dialect? I
have to
think
think-
he's American. Isn't
And why is he shouting?
He's always yelling at him because kids yell. They don't know how to act.
Yeah.
I just like to think there's like this one boom mic operator saying, "Yeah, the microphone is not working today." So they had to re-record all the audio.
I'm gonna look up where Noah Hathaway is from because I feel like he's American.
So I feel like before we talk about how we all felt about the movie, I feel like Bret should tell us his theory.
Oh yeah, you have the answer to the never-ending story.
Yeah, okay. So I'm watching this thing. You know, I'm not even going to preface it.
Oh,
Well,
Where is he
Wait.
from?
yeah, no, he's from LA.
Okay, right. So that was an LA dialect. You should be really familiar with it.
How dare you? How dare you?
okay, so theory of the movie. What's the Bastion?
Bastion? Mm-hmm.
He killed himself at the end of the movie, right? That's
No.
the theory. The whole movie.
I think it makes total
When would
sense.
that have happened?
Okay, so the whole movie is about his last day on Earth. Okay, he wakes up, he's got shitty dad telling him he's worthless and needs to like fucking take a chill on being sad about his mom. He goes out in the world where all these little kids fucking hate him. He goes to school that doesn't care if he's not there. He has this book that he reads and kind of like, you know, is all about depression and how it's taking over the world and there's nothing you can do to stop it.
I mean, he is
there's-
Atreyuuuu, right?
Yeah, and like
Like the horse is like his mom because the horse dies, and Atreyuuuu has to deal with that too.
But there's lots of little pieces you can look into. But the big thing is at the end of the movie, he's up in the window at the storm night.
It's the Birdman ending.
Come join us in the world of fantasy. No, I have to keep my feet on the ground. No, he leaps out of the upper story window into the stormy night. The lights go black, and then he wakes up in this fucking fantasy land. They never come back to the real world. And it's just his like dying hallucination that everything's fine now.
It's like the Birdman ending.
He does
I
come back to
haven't
the real
seen
world.
Birdman.
On a
His son tours
dragon.
with him.
That's he's hallucinating that. This is all. There's no real world scenes
So
after
then
he leaps out of the window.
what are the kids seeing? Nothing? He's hallucinating the entire thing?
yeah,
Dream?
yeah. That's not a real world. That's all in his head.
Because if you think about it, like they say that Fantasia is made up of the imagination of people and that it has no limits and there's no crossing between the worlds.
They're pretty expressive
How is it a
about.
hallucination if he's dead?
Well, like maybe
lack
he's
for a
like
better
dying
word,
or like
but-
whatever. Like it's his dying hallucination that everything is
my.
fine now. And like that everything's back to great because he like jumped into fantasy, into his like I want to kill myself fantasy. That is my theory.
I don't like it.
Yeah,
Don't buy it.
it's like, okay, it has a logic in the way that Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord. It's like, okay, I can see the dots you're connecting, but I'm not on board with it.
That is a huge leap you just made there.
Yeah. I don't know
Really?
that it's the same thing.
I agree. I'm on board with Nick's. Not on
Yeah.
board with Bret.
You're on board with me not being on board?
It's totally a thing.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
I don't think he kills himself.
It's just depressing.
Well, it's kind of like, okay, another film that I will give it a parallel to is My Neighbor Totoro. So you can watch that movie and it's like a cute, adorable movie, or you can watch that movie and that kid dies in the end. In fact, they both die.
It's apparently
Watch it
been
again.
a long time since I've seen My Neighbor Totoro.
Watch it again and look up the theory. There's like a theory on it, and it's kind of solid. Like it's kind of creepy when you think about it, and it's like I think the Jar Jar Binks thing is like, you know, taking a lot of
It's a
stuff.
stretch.
Yeah, a lot of stretches, but like the point that that is the point that he crosses over into this fantasy world, and we never see him. They even say, like, they don't show him waking up in the real world again. And they even say, like, you know, he does wake up eventually, but that's another story. Like, they don't really ever show him.
Yeah, maybe
come
he didn't
full
die,
circle.
but maybe he just is in a coma or something.
And at least we can all agree that 11 is the Demogorgon. But moving on to the visual effects in this film.
No. I don't agree.
I love that theory. But yeah, so, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of debate about the puppetry and the visual effects. And I kind of want to lead with Little Shop of Horrors as being like, doing a puppet that big where the lips will sync with the dialogue is nearly impossible until Little Shop of Horrors cracked the code, which was shooting the action at a different camera speed. So they would play the music or the music or the dialogue very slowly and shoot the puppet very slowly and then speed it up in playback. And that's what they didn't have here. And that's why it's just really hard making a puppet that big.
Yeah.
Well, the rock dude, and like his lip kind of just doing the wave as
But
he's talking.
The sad thing is that was one of the better puppets. Like, the wolf was the worst.
Yeah.
The wolf mount. Like, the thing about that is, like, the rock monster, rock
monster? Rock monster.
He has a humanoid mouth.
True.
Whereas, like, a dog mouth is not
not really a
built
talking
for
mouth.
words.
Yeah.
So it's, like, hard to make that look like words.
But it had like two jaws. Like, it was...
Yeah, it had,
The
like,
lips
weird, like,
articulated
snout movement.
separately.
That was strange.
You know, none of
But
that
then
shit
again,
bothered me.
I've seen
And
Jungle
that's-
Book, and those are talking goddamn animals.
That's
so.
really the point I want to make. Like, I can let go of the limitations of the technology because I felt like those characters still really worked.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, the one that doesn't work for me is the wolf. Like, the wolf is pretty, I think the
What the
problem.
fuck is his name? Gamork?
I think that's right,
think it's
actually.
Gamork.
Yeah.
Gamork.
What a...
Who's
that's
in that show,
weird
Gamork
name.
and
I wonder what
Gamindi?
that means.
But like, he didn't work for me because like he was so stationary. And like the only thing that really moved of him is his mouth, as opposed to
And
the other
his
puppets
nose.
you saw like move the rest of their body. But like their lips, I don't know, that didn't really bother me. That's
Like,
just kind of like early puppetry in
I'm
that time.
bummed out that they didn't have a like Golden Compass-esque final fight brawl between Atreyuuuu and the wolf.
Right.
Like,
Oh yeah,
Didn't that just feel like a character that was shoehorned in for exposition and tension and just didn't pay off at all?
That's like every puppet
true.
character in this movie.
well, but like, so the exposition would have been cooler if that was what they told you up front, and then there was a plot that tied in with it. Like,
Isn't it? Like, he was just explaining what
he's
the nothing was
chained.
doing.
He's chained in his little cave, it says. on the wiki.
that was poorly visually
Yeah.
conveyed.
Yeah.
What
if it's
I
not
will
in the
say
movie, it's a plot hole.
is he was there as a plot device, right? Because we needed to have Atreyuuuu confront the bad guy.
We needed
and
a
we
face
needed
on
a
the
bad
nothing.
guy. Yeah, exactly. So that was his purpose. Was he set up well? No.
Was
definitely.
he paid off well?
No.
So
Oh.
yes, the puppetry falls flat, but does the puppetry extra fall flat because that character falls flat? And where the rock biter does
Right.
not fall flat, you forgive those
Yeah,
flaws.
I loved the Rockbiter and Falcorrrrr. They didn't bother me. I felt like they were real characters.
Yeah, especially in the hand scene that you were talking about earlier. Like,
the
I
big,
really...
strong hands.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
an
like,
emotional scene.
It is.
Yeah.
Like, his
I'm
acting
big and
was
strong,
great.
and I should be able to stop this, and I just can't.
Yeah.
That's almost like Superman's deal when his father dies.
Hmm.
Like, with all my power,
spoilers. I'm just kidding.
There's the explanation on the wiki says, Gamork confesses that he's been hunting a boy sent on a quest by the childlike empress to find her a new name, but lost him early on. Then Gamork met the princess of darkness named Gaia, who, upon hearing his mission to help the Nothing, chained Gamork with an unbreakable magical chain and leapt into the Nothing, leaving him to starve. Gamork explains to Atreyuuuu the nature of the Nothing, and that if a Fantasticon enters it, they become a lie in the human world. Eventually, Gamork reveals the name of the boy he's pursuing, and Atreyuuuu reveals his identity, which makes the wolf laugh until he succumbs to starvation and dies. What?
So you might be making Michael Ende's point, the author of the book who sued the movie for changing too much.
Yeah.
You know,
Really?
like
He did?
yeah.
Wow.
Like he was not happy with the way the movie played out because there's important information that wasn't in the movie.
What an incredible tragic ending for that villain, that he like becomes chained and meets the boy just in time to like
starve
find the
to
humor
death.
in the situation and starve to death. Like,
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
what?
a dark ending.
dark.
It kind of
Yo.
felt like somebody said, no, we need to have a fight scene. And they're like, all right, we'll try to have a fight scene. And then it
They
fell
were like,
flat.
isn't Atreyuuuu a warrior? I mean, I guess.
Maybe
Okay,
we
I
should
guess
have
we could
him
have him
fighting.
take a like an arrowhead to the wolf.
A real
Yeah,
letdown.
yeah. Either have a fight scene or don't have a fight scene, but don't pull your punches. That whole thing really fell flat.
Man, that shot where Bastian gets to ride Falcorrrrr for the first time still gets to me. Like, he
Absolutely.
said yeah, and I said yeah, and
Yeah.
it's all good. I'm
So
just like,
there
yeah,
is
that's
a
movie for
place
me.
in Bavaria. It's kind of like Universal Studios on a smaller level where they've
they have a
got.
Falcorrrr?
It's like a Wolfgang Petersen museum. You've got the submarine from Das Boot. You've got sets from Enemy Mine, and you can sit on Falcorrrr and have your picture taken.
Wow.
I want to go there so bad. I almost went this year when I was in Europe, but sometime I will go and sit on Falcorrrr and go, yeah!
And then 80s freeze frame.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I have an old picture of my brother and me in King Kong's hand at Universal Orlando back when they had the old King Kong ride. There was like a little hand that you could sit in. And I still have that. And I always thought that was so cool.
I have a picture of me in the little basket of ET's
Yeah.
bike.
Aw.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cute.
That's adorable. You're in the basket, not on the bike?
I can't remember. I think so.
That's awesome.
You are the alien, Sam.
Yeah, that's the one alien I'm not really scared of.
The
I have a
alien in me.
crippling fear of aliens. Because
I should probably leave you guys. Not unrelated, just because I'm definitely a human.
Yeah.
I just have like something somewhere I needed to be.
What is this chip behind your neck, Tybee?
What? Nothing. Why?
just
Aren't
please
you
tell
the
me
girl
you're not
from
green,
Planet
have
B?
giant eyes, and are bald, because that would freak me
A
out.
lizard tail sticking out of your
What do you have against people?
Who are green with giant eyes and bald, like they freak me out because they're from the X-Files and they come to the wilderness where I grew up and take you away forever.
Sam grew up in a literal cabin in the woods. Like,
Cool.
Yeah, log cabin that
I didn't
my dad
really
built.
I'm not an alien.
Okay, good. You had me a little worried there.
So, Tybee, I want to kind of back up a claim you were making and saying that I feel like the childlike Empress was like very sexually charged.
Both Atreyuuuu
Yeah.
and the childlike Empress always have felt very sexually charged.
I feel like
totally
she got
agree.
coaching from somebody to speak in a sexy way.
Well, I think here's the thing. That kid's got like the pillowiest lips.
yeah.
Like they're just like
so
know what
somebody
else to
said
call
that
them.
during the thing, and I looked, and it kind of looked like maybe prosthetic. Like they just built it up a little bit because it was like
know.
a weird shape. For
I don't
like
think- I think
It
that's
a
was
human lip.
lipstick too. I mean,
she's covered in like highlight and like
Yeah.
amazing makeup. She's soft focused. I think the idea of the vocal coaching for her is that she's not supposed to be a child. She's supposed to be childlike.
Right.
So she's supposed to sound sort of like an adult with a child's voice,
Yeah, but it came off very weird.
which
like,
is naturally, I think, going to come off a little weird and sexy.
Yeah.
it was weird. I agree.
I'm going to find a picture of her.
There was a lot of weird dialogue in this movie, though.
Yeah, this
like,
movie's weird as hell.
And that moment at the end where Bastion is talking to the Empress, I'm like, they gonna fuck? Like,
Wow.
even as a child, I was like, what's happening here?
or like the Atreyuuuu Falcorrrrr, like, hello.
Oh God!
You know what?
Winky,
While you were
winky.
asleep, wink.
I'm not on board with that. I hate you guys for even riffing on that. Like,
Are you
sure,
serious? You're
sure,
the one that played us the Lonely Island song.
Sure.
That took that way too far.
Sure.
So the
But
the
I think you can crack jokes about it, and you could
That's her
bend
real
that.
lip.
But that's
Really?
not the heart of what was intended in that scene. Like, you're putting words in their mouth.
But okay, so, no, I think that. How did you know my quest? You was sleeping.
Yeah, it's a
Wink.
fantasy movie for kids. He's like
the
he's
way
like a
it's
grandfather.
phrased is really weird, though.
It's
Yeah,
it's
I
the
think you
while
guys
you
are
were
stretching and I don't-
sleeping wink. It's weird.
yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
I don't-
The wink made
suggestive.
it weird.
Yeah.
Without the wink, it would have been fine.
It's like Arrested Development. Why do you keep winking?
Yeah, that could be something you could edit together. Like, Falcorrrrr, why are you still?
anytime you add a wink to something, it just sexualizes it in a
You
weird
know,
way.
there was a time and place where that didn't just mean something sexual.
I was not giggling, and this is not me like separating myself from you guys like you're being children, but I just don't. It doesn't bother. I don't feel that way when I watch it. Like I get what you guys are laughing at, but when I was watching it, I wasn't like, that's crazy. There was one line that I was like, okay, but
that's the one line we're talking about.
But like the other stuff, there were plenty of lines that I felt like could be misconstrued, but I just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't bother me. I think because the voice is so weird, it just didn't strike me that way. That's all I'm saying.
But for me, and I'm not really like giving you guys shit. It's just like to a very, very small extent. It's like sometimes you'll go to a movie theater and you'll see a movie and there's just like this total dramatic thing that you're completely invested in, but people are giggling at it. And it's like, I was completely invested in that shit. Spoilers, I still love this. And you guys are kind of like, making it sound creepy that the dragon's saying shit,
All right.
So
to a small
the question I have is, is that something that's a product of like our media experiences? Like when this came out, did no one make jokes about how weirdly sexual that could have been interpreted as?
It's an interesting question.
Was that like just a straight normal fun scene for everyone involved?
I think so. In 1984 or in 1979, if it was in the book that way, I don't think that would have been seen as creepy.
I doubt in the book it said Falcorrrrr said while winking.
I'm not sure.
It might have.
Maybe in Germany that's not suggestive.
While you were sleeping, wink.
So you still liked it?
So yes, I still 100% am on board with this movie. I love the fantasy stuff, the puppets. I love this idea of the fantasy world bleeding into the real world through the book, and this like swinging the camera straight at the audience, whether the audience is me or the audience is Bastian, and being like, you're part of this and you've got a responsibility towards this. Like, I love that. I eat that stuff up.
Them looking straight into the camera and being like, audience, don't be fucking lame. Like, have an imagination.
Absolutely. And that is exactly the point. Don't be fucking lame. Have an imagination. 1984. Like, you people are turning into a bummer. Like, embrace fantasy. Embrace whimsy.
So on that note, though, so many fucking fantasy movies came out in the 80s. So I feel like that's a little bit of a false claim. Like, I feel like
commentary?
The 80s loved fantasy.
Maybe, and maybe I'm playing this note too much, but think about late 70s Germany. That would be a bummer.
Yeah.
Those are some people who needed some fantasy in their lives.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Totally.
Explained.
Lawyered.
But still, I love that shit where like the nothing is tearing apart Fantasia, but then the window bursts open and a tree limb flies through the window and Bastian has to like block the window from the storm. I eat that stuff up. I love that.
I remember when I saw this later in life, it hadn't occurred to me what name he was saying. Like I just was like, it's nothing, but it totally is a name.
Moonchild?
Moonchild, yeah. But I was like, as a kid, it just never occurred to me to like, put it together what those sounds were. I was just like yelling, like, I accept. I don't know why.
I had no memory of what the name was until he said, I'm like, your mom's name was Moonchild?
Yeah.
His name was Moonchild?
And she married that dude?
She married Major Dad?
As like who was a child from like the 60s, maybe?
60s, yeah.
I guess so.
Like, where they're
no, because if it's 1984, he's supposed to be like 11.
Oh yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Is he 11? I feel like he's a little bit younger.
Yeah, I guess he is. He's probably like 9, 10.
Yeah, I'd say that.
10.
Yeah, so let's say
she would have had to have been like,
she might have been
born in the 50s.
Yeah, and
a
then
moonchild from the 50s,
a teenager in the mid 60s. Maybe she had the kid a little bit late in the early 70s.
Was like a nickname.
She changed her name when she found herself again in the 70s at Woodstock, where her child was conceived.
I think the math works.
Is this?
Yes.
Do we? I can't remember because we've brought it up so many times. But is this like a continuation of the shitty 80s dad?
Well, I just had this weird thought about the shitty 80s dad. The father plays Raymond Tusk in House of Cards. another story that takes place in a world where
That's
they
who that
talk to the
was.
audience. Maybe it's the same guy, and maybe
just
Kevin
an asshole
Spacey in House
still.
of Cards is speaking to the audience in the way that Bastion and the
He
Empress
found
were
the book.
speaking to the audience.
He's been reading.
That's why he has all this power, because he knows he can manipulate the fantasy world and the audience world on the outside.
Everything is the never-ending story. Oh man, you just tied together two very different worlds.
Yeah. It's just Kevin Spacey, Falcorrrrr.
Clea, we have to get on Aya Falcor 1 and go to DC. Right, those terrible.
So did you not like it, Bret?
No, I never said I didn't like this movie. I just think it's not my cup of tea. I enjoyed it more watching it, like trying to connect it to my my theory, because there's a bunch of other little like set pieces. Like every time they glanced at the window, it was from the angle where you could see the skeleton, and like you know, there's some things where it's just like, oh, that's interesting visual that matches up with that. But
Tybee's face.
Tybee's so mad at me.
No me gusta.
You're just trying to put the movie in your box the whole time.
Yes, and it was more fun to watch it that way than the time I watched it where I didn't have that theory.
Okay.
I feel that.
So I actually enjoyed it more this time, just because I had something to watch for.
You
but
were watching actively,
exactly
looking for something.
But I think not enough stuff happens, and the stuff that does happen doesn't happen in a way that is fulfilling from like a story standpoint. Totally. And
Yeah, really, like at the end, I was like, what has Atreyuuuu done? Not really much.
He brought Bastion through the adventure.
Yeah,
But
made an emotional connection.
He didn't really do much on the adventure.
but so like
Did some stuff. It was just a slower paced story than what we're used to.
but there's
He
it's
literally
a difference in
walked.
scale. Like sure, he saved.
See,
You've seen
also
Lord
Lord
of
of
the
the Rings. Yeah. That's a walking movie.
But why?
That's three walking
Lord of the
movies.
Rings, great example. Why do you think there's so many fucking side characters? Because Frodo's story is really boring. If we just followed him for 1,000 pages.
I don't know. Frodo, Sam, like hang out for 1,000 pages would be pretty fun. But yeah, the scale of the adventure was weird because he saved the world by like not with his imagination, but just by having one, which is a really huge letdown for me.
That's rather
Like
Buddhist. You're perfect the way you are, but you could use work.
yeah.
Well, and it doesn't really wrap up the dad, right? Like,
Yeah.
clearly
Like
there's
this
still
kid
a conflict.
still has to go back to his life, and now he's going to be even more daydreaming. 'Cause he's like, listen, in my other life, I ride a dragon. So no to what you said, Dad. Like, how is this kid gonna?
Well, and
he's gonna
imagine-
need so much therapy.
The bumper
that
sticker, my
question-
other car is a Falcorrrrr.
Imagine the conversation when the dad's like, "Where have you been for
My other
24
car is a racing
fucking
snail.
hours?
Sorry.
You've been missing. I called the police." Like, that conversation is not going to go
His
well.
dad doesn't know where he is and doesn't care.
Well,
But I
that's-
think that question
that's even sadder than your version of the story.
that question may be answered in the NeverEnding Story Part 2.
Maybe.
Now we've
Yeah,
got
I've
to
never
see
seen it.
Now we have to see.
I do
yeah.
love me some Jonathan Brandis. I love him. Sidekicks, ladybugs. Come on, y'all.
Sequest DSV? Yes. I love
Yes,
Sequest.
Yes.
Did you say what your opinion was, Ash?
I haven't. No, I feel. I would say I feel pretty neutral on this movie, which I feel like was the same feeling I had as a kid.
Yep.
Where like it was okay. It wasn't. I don't think it's like the amazing thing that everyone cracks it up to be. Like, you know, it's
Except for the soundtrack.
the soundtrack's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
I think the
Awesome
visuals
music.
are pretty awesome. Like visually, I think this is very striking, and I think I personally think that the special effects are pretty impressive for the time, and you know, I think that they, you know, blended really well. I liked the visuals, and I like the fantasy of the characters, but the storytelling wasn't really like gripping me the whole time, I guess. You know, I just wish
He looks so big and strong.
I just wish there was okay, that's a great example. Like, I wish that character had been like helping him on his quest the whole time. You know, like these fun characters, these fun 3 characters that we meet in the beginning who like I personally really liked. I know, Sam, you said that was the most boring scene you've ever seen, but I enjoyed that scene. I liked those characters, and I was really hoping that they were going to like help him on his quest. But then they just disappear, and in my opinion, they're the 3 most interesting characters in the whole fucking movie.
I think what you want is a NeverEnding Story 1.5.
1.5.
Or you want the Wizard of Oz.
Or may I suggest Labyrinth?
Well, I love Labyrinth.
Because the side characters are involved in all the stuff.
Yes. See, I wish it was more like, you know, that. I wish there was more like world building. Like, we didn't really... The world always looked the same. It was always like this rock place with like this weird wavy mist in the background. Like,
the movie's just, the story is vague.
Yeah, it's pretty
like,
vague.
It's like, I want to do a story about having an imagination. Okay.
But without any imagination.
But what is it? Okay, so a kid reads a book, and he's like in the story, but he's not in the story. And this other kid, there's part of a prophecy that he's going to have to do these following things. But he's already done them because there's paintings of them.
And he's kind of that kid, right?
He like meets a dog and and is getting chased by the dog, and then his horse drowns, and then a dog dragon saves him. And then nothing really happens for a while. He has to like run through goalposts.
There's
Can
these
you do that
statues.
in a German accent? Okay, and then he meets a dog.
Okay, so he meets a dog called Gemork. He loses he loses his horse in the quicksand.
It's very
of
sad.
Sadness. Are you familiar with sadness? Do you know what it is to be sad?
dies because he is sad.
He dies because he succumbs to the sadness, something I've never experienced. No, I don't know. I just feel like the movie's like it's like this thing is running after him, but we're not really sure why, and then he turns out to be just chained in a cave for no reason. Just they missed all the specific. It's like if you read the book, this is a cool movie to watch, but if not,
I wonder how much
happening?
of this is more fleshed out in the movie.
No,
or
it just,
in the book.
it's weird if you like consider the real plot points of the nothing is coming, go on a quest, and then it ends with you're back at the castle and the nothing is here. Like, the rest of it felt like, well, stuff needs to happen between, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so.
It was like, look at all these things he went through, and it was like, but he didn't really do anything at all. At least like Sarah has to solve some puzzles and shit, and like throw rocks at the little helmets on the guys and turn them around, and like break a mirror and a ball. Like, think about all the things that Sarah does in Labyrinth.
There's a lot of physical action in Labyrinth,
things.
as opposed to this movie was a lot of scenes of
A
people
lot of
talking.
being like, but why?
Yeah.
Yelling. And you're like, why are you crying, little boy?
You know, like the scene with him and the turtle, the giant turtle, is the same scene.
I forgot
with
about that
him.
scene until just now.
Yeah, is the same scene with him and the wolf. You know, it's like the
Right.
same. But why? Tell me why. And the same scene with him and the statue. Like, give me exposition and information instead of like showing us. You know, and maybe
Like,
it's
why
poor.
couldn't long white beard guy be like, hey, listen, okay, so don't freak out. There's a little kid in an attic reading about everything that we say. Like this? What about this? Is he reading this? Yes, he's reading all the things you're saying.
I wouldn't have liked that.
Well, right, but like I would like that better if he's like going on a quest and he's like talking to Bastian the whole time. Then I like him walking up to giant monsters and being like, "Hey, what the fuck?" And they're like, "We can't tell you."
That would
And
be
he's
cool.
like, "But seriously, like, what the fuck?" And they're like, we can't tell you."
That would be cool in the next movie if Bastian and Atreyuuuu just have a dialogue the whole time.
Yeah.
Because now those walls are broken down.
I could be wrong, but I believe in the second movie, Bastian is in Fantasia.
Fantasia.
Yeah, and
Let's
like
go to
he
Fantasia.
does meet up with Atreyuuuu, I think. I could be wrong. I could be remembering it wrong. But like, I have a memory of liking the second movie better because there was more physical action and there are characters like helping him on the quest. And like, you know, it's less of this like vague exposition thing. I don't know. It's it's all right, but it's not I like the visuals. I feel like that's probably why a lot of people like this movie is because like visually it's like really interesting.
Yeah.
They made a lot of creative
music's awesome.
choices,
Yeah.
and didn't execute the ideas. What like Falcorrrr's so cool? What a cool thing! He's got like scales. He's kind of rainbowy, like.
And even those two people in the beginning that like help him out, like they're really interesting. And the telescope.
Snail? Like, come on, tell me more
It
about
seemed like
racing
Falcorrrrr
snails.
was really limited by budget.
Yeah,
That's the way it
does.
felt.
Can you imagine if they made Falcorrrr now?
I mean, look at
well, he'd be
Dragonheart.
CG,
Like, it
right?
could be awesome.
Yeah,
He'd
would
be
be.
CG.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even though it was CG, Dragonheart was pretty great.
Oh, really?
Wait, Dragonheart was CG?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was about the same time as Jurassic Park, and it was basically all the same tech as Jurassic Park. And yeah,
But
you
have
really,
be
you
a
seen
great
it
one for the
recently?
podcast.
we could go back.
Because I
That'd
feel
be
like
great.
I saw a clip recently and it was not so good. Yeah.
sometimes Falcorrrr just really reminded me of Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah, the animatronics.
Yeah, those animatronic man
That aren't
members
quite
that are like
working,
not
right?
quite working, like one eye
Yeah.
closes at random intervals.
So what instrument would Falcorrrr be playing in that band?
Xylophone. He's so long. He can reach all the things.
As we're running low on time, I want to make sure that Sam gets to say what she thinks.
Yeah,
so that we
Sam
can
during the movie
get into
said-
a fight.
Stop crying, you little bitch.
That pretty much sums it up.
I said, wipe your tears.
Oh, wipe
you little
your tears, you little bitch. That was it. Oh, man. God, that just warms my whole heart. All right. Sorry, continue.
So yeah, now that I'm red and laughing, I actually think at the core, it's a cool story with a lot of potential. I think it was just executed very, very poorly in this movie. Like, everything is exposition, no showing, all telling. Everything's low budget, like poor animatronics, like a lot of missed opportunity. So I don't fault anybody who loves this movie, but I feel like anybody who loves this movie is an idealist because they see how wonderful it could be.
They're
And
filling in the gaps.
yeah, feeling totally.
So you feel like I'm spotting this movie a few bucks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't blame you for it because I certainly have those
Yeah.
movies of
People
my
have
own.
this.
Yeah, but I thought it was really boring for a lot of it.
Yep.
And I'm sorry.
I like the Tumblr advocate side of it, though, where it's like the idealist, where the message of the movie that they were trying to go for is like important, like, you know, learn to feel like you're worth it.
Totally.
Yeah, but they're like, oh, you can only go through if you believe you're worthy. And he doesn't. They still try to shoot him, but he just runs really fast.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
confusing.
That
to
was a
like
little weird.
outrun your self-confidence. Like do it before you.
That is fake it till you make it.
I guess it is. I guess it's fake it. But I
That
guess the
night
whole
was
point.
failing at faking it, apparently. Yeah.
So do you have some final thoughts on this, Tybee?
Silence.
I think we kind of get an idea of how you feel.
I feel exactly the way I thought I was going to feel, which is the way I felt the last time I watched it, which is sounds about right. Like that's the movie. Yeah, that's NeverEnding Story. I still get excited about parts of it. I still am really upset that they hurt that horse. I still think that 5-year-old me, because I never went through a boys are icky phase. That never happened to me. I was like at preschool, like I need a boyfriend. Do you want to be it? Like it was not. There was no gap for me where I was like, maybe boys are dumb. So I was always obsessed with like boys. So I saw Atreyuuuu as a kid and was like, I'm in love? ? So I like have such fond memories of being like, ee about him.
You have a
Totally.
poster.
On the sub.
No, I didn't have posters as a kid. I've never been one to like idolize. Like you'll rarely hear me say like someone's really hot.
Yeah, I didn't really do that either.
I just am not. But I still like to look at his dumb little face. It makes me think of my childhood. And look how cute Bastian is. And that's kind of what the characters in Stranger Things look like. They look like Bastian.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that the reason we love the music from Stranger Things is because of shit like this.
Yeah,
Totally.
This is that
100%.
same vibe.
Well,
that same like electronic
yeah. I mean,
synth magic.
that's the point of Stranger Things.
Agreed. That's
Hey.
what I'm saying.
Hey Ash,
Yeah.
could you explain Stranger Things to me?
Yeah,
What is
so it's this 80s nostalgia thing.
Okay. I think I'm the childlike empress. What do you guys think? Anybody?
Yeah. You
Anybody?
could
Yeah, if
Totally,
we
I
had to
could see
cast it right now.
actually perfect Halloween costume for you.
No, that was what I told
I don't
Bret
have
that
enough
we
hair.
should do. I get to be the Empress. He gets to be
You would be
Atreyuuuu,
so
and
cute as a childlike empress.
Can
I
he
can see
be
that.
Gets to be
Falcorrrr?
Cherub is Falcorrrr. Yes.
Oh.
So what did you think, Bryce?
So despite the fact that they kept repeating the exact same thing over and over again,
Over
throughout
and
the
over
whole
and
movie,
over forever.
and over, and it was ridiculous, but they did manage to keep it interesting. And Bill Murray had really good character development. So I really, it was cool to see him kind of go from being an asshole to being somewhat likable by the end.
I like to watch a character learn something. You know what I mean?
There was growth there. But like I said, we've watched this movie already on the podcast, so I don't know why we did it a
That
second
groundhog
time.
was real sparkly too.
Very.
And fuzzy.
So if people want to learn more about you, Tybee, are they going to check out Interrobang? Where else can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter. I'm at Hello Tybee Ren. That's TYBEEREN. Ren is my middle name. Sometimes people read it as Tiberian, and I'm like, why? No, what? It's
I had
just
to
my middle
intentionally
name.
remind myself your name's Tybee Diskin, not Tybee Ren.
Oh,
In my
interesting.
mind, I have to stop and are you one of the Knights of Ren?
Not that I know of, but maybe.
Is
No,
that
I'm named
similar
after
to the Knights of Knee?
No, the
Or-
Knights of
Right.
Ren are
Knights
Kylo Ren's crew, who we've only seen a bit
Oh,
in
hell
a dream
yeah.
sequence.
For sure, then yes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to have a new Ren character that isn't Ren Hoek.
Yeah.
So the people, when I'm like Ren, they're like,
I wonder if
Kylo
they're
Ren? I'm like,
related.
yes, thank you. I'm actually named after Ren McCormick from Footloose.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
My first and last name are like, family. Well, obviously, my last name is family, but I have like a super Jew first and last name. People don't know that.
Is Tybee traditionally Jewish?
It's Yiddish.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So
It's
my
a
name's
cool
like
name that I've never
low-key
heard
Jewy as
before.
hell. Diskin's totally Hebrew. Just people don't know it. It's not
Yeah.
a popular name. They can find me Hello Tybee Ren. My podcast is at Interrocast. That's me too. It's probably me. Every once in a while it's Travis, but it's mostly me.
and it's
What
great.
else?
You should check it out.
Podcast is interrobangcast.com. And I just put up some video on the YouTubes. If you look on the YouTube, it's on the internet. You type in...
dragons, but nobody's perfect.
No, we don't have flying dragon. We are not a sparkly people. We don't. Yeah, it's just a fun, weird video. That's pretty much it.
If you like the show, this is part of the Last Stash network of content. We have this podcast, a YouTube channel where we have a drinking show, video game parodies, a cooking show, maybe eventually other things.
We will have a video with Tybee as well.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Tybee's going to be on our Let's Drink show, so you'll be able to see her and Travis from Interrobang.
They get fucked up.
They do.
We got pretty silly.
With weird drinks. Really weird drinks.
Yeah.
What drinks that make you want to say an Interrobang. But you can subscribe to Laugh Stash TV on YouTube. We're Laugh Stash TV. You can follow Laugh Stash TV at Laugh Stash TV. And then you can also follow this podcast at Let's Rewatch on Twitter. And do make sure that you send us your movie suggestions. We love doing your movie suggestions. We've done quite a few so far. So you can send those to us on Twitter, or you can send them to us via our email. Hold on, I'm looking it up because I don't know. It's letsrewatch@gmail.com. And also, if you just want to send us your thoughts, if you disagree with us on
So dangerous on the internet.
Just send them your thoughts
Just
about anything, about the
anything,
weather,
anything.
how you feel about Donald Trump, just whatever you're thinking about.
You can send us your thoughts if you disagree with us on what we thought about a movie, or you agree. Send us an email and maybe we'll read it on the podcast.
And if you loved us or you hated us, please go ahead and review us on iTunes, Libsyn, and
No reviews on Libsyn.
Damn it! iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, or leave a
Period.
comment on Libsyn.
There you go.
Oh!
Nailed it.
All right, so join us every 2 weeks. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with another episode of Let's Rewatch.
Next time on Let's Rewatch, we'll be watching Astro Zombies.
Astro.
You missed the hyphen there.